Behold, the genius Lanny Poffo, the world's smartest man.
Sometimes what goes on behind the scenes is stronger than the soap opera on the video scope.
You are listening to The Genius Cast with Lanny Poffo. I am co-host JP Zarka, ProWrestlingStories.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the poet and limerick writing, motivational speaking brother of WWE Hall of Famer, Macho Man Randy Savage, the genius, Leaping Lanny Poffo.
Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to the second edition of the Genius Cast. My name is Lanny Poffo.
And I'm JP Zarka, ProWrestlingStories.com. And what a week it's been for you.
So great, and it's so exciting.
Since our last recording, we're coming off the heels of a very successful Allin and Starrcast weekend. How was it? What was it like for you?
Well, it was like a breath of fresh air, and it made me feel so young, and, that's really what I want to feel like. It was really, looking back on it and having experienced it, what a lucky man I am to have just been invited. And I'm very thankful to the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes and all the people at Ring of Honor that were so nice to me. And but not to be outdone, Jay Lethal, isn't it great that there's a spot for me? And I'll tell you what, if I wasn't there, they would have drawn as many people as they did, because it sold out in like 20 minutes and nobody even thought I might be there.
Right.
So I feel like I was just, invited to the feast.
Now, you flew out there not even knowing if you were going to be used on the show. How did everything play out?
No, it wasn't that dogmatic. Jay Lethal said, hey, why don't you come out and I'll see if I can get you to walk me out there. That's basically what he said, and I guess he's got some stroke or clout or whatever.
Yeah, being Ring of Honor champion, he's got a little bit of pull.
Well, you're the champion until you lose it.
That's right.
So, and I've seen stars fall. But, the backstage, everybody was very busy, but everybody was so friendly and nice, and nobody seemed pressured. Naturally, we got there at 11 a.m., and there's a lot of downtime for a guy like me. But it was just fantastic. And let me tell you what, I had a chance to talk to the girl that sang the national anthem, and didn't she kill? Did you see that national anthem?
I did. Stunning, beautifully sang. I mean, everyone from the national anthem to the very end. The camera work, the commentating, it was fantastic. I was so blown away.
Yes, I was very proud of her because, she said, I'm a little nervous. And I said, well, anyone would be nervous in front of 10,000 people. What makes you think you wouldn't be?
She'd be unhuman if she wasn't nervous.
Yeah, of course she was nervous, and I thought she did a much better job than Roseanne Barr in San Diego.
Yeah, there wasn't any farting noises or burping.
Oh, it was terrible, that what she did.
Yeah, it was horrible,
terrible. Yeah, not a big fan. Not a fan.
But I mean, so you said there was a lot of sitting around in the back. You got there early. Very smart, obviously. You get there early. You just sit back and wait for yourself to be used if needed. Now, you had a chance to talk to a lot of people in the back. Talk us through some of the conversations you had, who you met, and so on.
Well, a real big thrill was meeting Kenny Omega, because isn't he fantastic?
The best in the world.
I believe even the world knows it, okay? Sometimes you can think you are the best, and the world doesn't believe that. But this guy, and he's so laid back, and what a nice person. I was very, very impressed with him outside the ring. And, it's, I don't want to go on and on about him and gush, but I'll tell you what, I've seen his matches several times, and I'm barely interested in wrestling anymore. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But if you're going to go out there and raise the bar to that level, and I was thinking, wouldn't the Macho Man have loved to work with him?
I was going to ask that. Kenny Omega versus the Macho Man. Who do you have?
Yeah, I'll tell you who's going to win. The fans, they win. It doesn't matter who wins. Winning is like inconsequential. The fans win because you got two guys out there that want to raise the bar. The fans win. And I don't want to go back harping on it, but I'll tell you where the fans lost is when Randy didn't get to wrestle you know who.
Shawn Michaels.
Yes. I don't want to get the podcast off to a lousy start and get me all angry, but the fans missed it.
Yeah, we did, and we talked about that in the first episode. And speaking of the first episode, blew our minds. Now, at time of recording, it's Tuesday, so we do this a few days in advance. We've got a lot of stuff going on during the week, so we try to get the recording done early on. But we were ranked top-ranked wrestling podcast on the iTunes Sports and Recreation charts. We were ranked before Stone Cold Steve Austin. I know that Warrior's wife, she's got a podcast. We were ranked before her. Blows my mind. Incredible stuff. And, thank you to the listeners for tuning in, spreading the word, putting the Genius Cast out there. We couldn't be more happy for that. Thank you so much.
I would like to say thank you to all the fans. Thank you for your support. Of course, just because we had a good start doesn't mean we're going to have a good continuation. But I have a feeling, based on the feedback that I'm getting, that we are fun to listen to and maybe we're going to be addictive. And I'll tell you what, JP, for the early success, I blame you because even they were talking about the Genius Cast. What a great name. Well, I didn't think of that name. You did. Also, the artwork. It's very simple and it kind of stands out.
I agree. Now, the guy who does the logos for our show, as well as on ProWrestlingStories.com, his name is Kevin Meeker. I'm going to give him a bit of a shout out, well deserved. He's hilarious. He's a comedian. He's got a YouTube page called Miserable Hair People. Check it out for a laugh, and I'm sure you can contact him for custom design needs.
Wow, isn't that great? By the way, us being so successful, I blame that on you because I have absolutely no idea what work you're doing behind the scenes, and all I was doing is just talking into this microphone. So thank you for all your hard work, and I hope it creates a tsunami that you don't have to work as hard and you can be the family man you were meant to be.
Working on something that you're passionate about never feels like work. This doesn't feel like work, and like I've said before, I'm excited to see where this goes.
And, word of mouth is more important. And once you get the ball rolling, it's all word of mouth. And if the fans don't like the product, then it's not going to be any good because water will seek its own level. And if it goes low, that's because we're not giving the fans what they want. But what's so great about it, the fans are a part of this podcast. And you've got all these questions you're going to ask me. And I told you, JP, don't ask me before because it's not going to be organic. I don't want to have to plan an answer. I like to give a knee-jerk reaction. That way, the fans get, you understand the difference. I don't want it to be scripted or, micromanaged and all that.
No, we don't like that. In fact, for the first show, I had sentences and paragraphs laid out and I was reading from them. And I think that became a bit evident at the beginning of the show. And hopefully I eased up by the end of the last show. But we got bullet points this week. That's it. We're going to call it in the ring as you will. And I'm excited to go back to this Allin talk, right? So you started off the weekend. You flew from your hometown, Clearwater in Florida, over to Chicago. And you went to Starrcast on, was it Friday?
Yes.
Okay. And you did some signings with Jay Lethal. What was it like talking with the fans? I was on Twitter and social media and on Facebook and such, and I was seeing people posting pictures with you, and one guy even had a tattoo of your brother that he showed you, and that must mean a lot to you.
Well, right next to, about 100 feet away was an actual tattoo artist, and he was doing fans, and they were doing brand new wrestling tattoos. And like I said, I don't have any tattoos. I don't like needles. And I don't feel that I would rather have a bunch of JPEGs in my phone rather than carry around, a bunch of, tattoos. I'm not interested in paying the money or getting the pain or getting infected or, just leave it alone.
Yeah, you're not going to get hurt by a JPEG.
Right. And I don't have piercings and I don't want to do anything like that. They're not going to sag.
I'm sorry? And JPEGs aren't going to sag in a few years.
Oh, yeah, right. Yes, we have to watch Gravity at all times.
Oh, I know.
But what was really great was the fans were we were having fun with them. And I told Jay Lethal, if he really wants to imitate the Macho Man, I've got an idea for him. Every 30 minutes, yell at me for no reason. And he did. And I laughed because, believe it or not, that was how Randy showed his love. And that's what I miss the most. You know, like, Lanny, come on, stop talking to those people and get over here. Yeah. And, you know, and it was just so funny. It was like bringing him back.
He's able to channel the spirit of the Macho Man.
Yes. Yes, so he had to bully me every 30 minutes, which was fun. And, yeah, you know, but Randy had a great personality. So when he did it, he got away with it because it was so much fun because of his, you know, he made a little white bread sandwich. Lanny, you had a good match, but here's what you need to work on really, really bad. But don't get discouraged because it's happening for you. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying he made it fun. He made learning fun, you know, and did he have a lot to teach.
How did it feel being out there at age 63 after being away for so long? Were you nervous, worried about getting hurt, or getting something wrong out there?
I was, yes, I was nervous. I'm always a little keyed up. What I was trying to do is not pull a Buckner. He let the ball go through his legs at Fenway Park. You know what I'm saying? You know, and he was like famous for ruining the Boston's chances. You know, and he was a Hall of Fame caliber player, but that's not what he's remembered for. So this match was so great, and I only had a few things to do in it. But I remember before I jumped into the ring, I told Jay Lethal, I said, Jay, tell me when. And he says, now. And I went into the ring and I threatened Bubba, and then he kicked me in the mommy daddy buttons, and I went down. You know, because the thing is, the ring general was Jay Lethal, and I didn't want to do something at the wrong moment. You know, I remembered what I had to do. I mean, that was easy. But the thing is, the timing of the match was being orchestrated by the master, the veteran, Jay Lethal, and I yield to the maestro. If I had been the quarterback of that match, I would have been the guy to say now. But he has such a great timing. I wanted to check with him as to when to enter the ring to, you know, try to fire up against Bubba. And, you know, it was, yes, I was nervous, and I was relieved when I didn't make any mistakes that would have said, hey, you took the edge off of our finish.
When did you find out that you were actually going to be used on TV?
The day before, when I was at Starrcast.
Mm-hmm. But even when you showed up on the day, you were telling me that it wasn't 100% sure if you would go in front of the crowd, but you knew you were going to be doing a backstage vignette.
Well, the thing is, it was all Jay's idea. I didn't know that he had all this clout, but if he would have been overruled, I would have accepted it. I was actually supposed to read a poem, and then but they were running late, so they canned the poem. And it was just going to be, my brother from another mother, how's your freaking head? You're morphing into black machismo, turquoise, green, and red. A kaleidoscope of colors you've got coursing through your veins. Macho Madness lives again. I feel it in my brains. You know, the fans didn't miss much, you know, and at least our audience got to hear it. But the thing is, it was getting late, and they had a 10 o'clock curfew. Right. You know, with the pay-per-view. Yeah. And you know how it is when you got a bunch of young, excited guys. They don't want to they don't want to cut it short. They want to go long, and that puts the people under pressure. And the only thing I felt was wrong with the evening is the Young Bucks had to hurry because they were on last. And I don't think those Young Bucks should be hurried. They're so great. And, you know, they have so much more to give. But the thing is, they were at the end, and they had a time curfew. And their backs were against the wall.
Now, yeah, that main event, it was originally supposed to be 30 minutes, and I think it got cut down to 14 or 15. But it still played out, but it did come off a bit rushed. But that's just, unfortunately, the way things go when taping live. Yeah,
and I'll tell you what, I'm hearing a lot of feedback about the only negative thing of the show was Joey Ryan. In my opinion, I liked it. I liked it. He said, well, there's too many penises. I said, well, what would you like to do? Have half as many? If you're going to do it, do it. You know what I mean? And it was like...
balls to the wall.
Yeah, right. It was like The Undertaker. No, I thought it had a huge crowd reaction, and I thought it worked. I thought it was fun. What's wrong with having a little fun at the matches?
Yeah, a lot of the old timers were hitting up social media and complaining. This isn't what wrestling should be. It's like old man yelling at cloud with fist in the air. You know what I mean? But the game's changing. The fans are entertained differently than the ones from the 80s and the 90s and so on. And it entertains people. For me, I think it's okay. It's not my cup of tea 100%, but to be fair, people like it. It's not affecting me. Put it out there. Do what works.
Well, especially, I like the placement of, there was like this brutal things done with Hangman and the ladder, and these bumps were just like deadly. And
my God. It looked like Joey died. He missed the table in that one spot when he was thrown off. And I'm sitting there watching the screen thinking, get up, stand up.
So after that, a little comedy doesn't hurt. And if it didn't get over, how come the fans were enjoying it so much? That's my point.
That's right. You made up a point about The Undertaker. I just had a funny thought. Imagine if The Undertaker, with all the smoke coming up and his music playing, and the Druids came out in penis costumes. How would he have been remembered today?
Wow, it would be... boom, boom, boom. Now, I'll tell you what, and you got to give credit to Flip Gordon, young guy like that, throwing his body all over the place. And, I didn't feel like a manager. I thought I was just a fan that had the best seat. And I kept looking behind me and said, am I in your way? They said, no, you're fine. Don't worry about it. To the fans, I would say. I try to lower myself, and kind of genuflect at the ring level so I wouldn't get my 7 3/4 hat size in people's way. They paid big money for those tickets.
Yeah, I was watching you on the outside. No, you were playing it well, like as if you practiced that. And that was probably the first time you were out there at the ring.
I was winging it out there, yes. I was not involved in any intricate high spots or anything, but the whole match was an intricate high spot. Did you see that match?
I did, of course. It was amazing.
There was not one low spot in the whole match. I'm all these old timers get on podcasts and say, in the 80s, we really had wrestling, not like the stuff today. Oh, yeah, I remember the 70s and 80s as people my age. Like, I don't belong in the ring, I feel. But we had people that didn't know when to quit. Big, fat, old men that would put foreign objects in their trunks, reach into it and gouge your eyes, and then you're supposed to hide it from the referee and blah, blah, blah. That's not wrestling. That's cheating or shortcuts. But when you've got all that talent and you can't wait to use it because you want to give those people everything you have, and it seems like every match is a game of, can you top this? And I'm thinking, in the next 10 years, wouldn't it be... I just wonder where wrestling's going. If the athleticism keep raising the bar, in sports, the only guy that I've seen dominate is Usain Bolt, the sprinter from Jamaica.
Yeah, he's now playing soccer.
Yeah, this guy. There's no limit to this guy, but usually every 4 years there's a better, faster, younger guy. But this time, it's just been Bolt, Bolt, and Bolt, Mm-hmm. And I met him one time. What a fantastic guy. And I made him laugh because I said, you get the big bamboo man, which is, you can imagine what that means in what you call Jamaica speak. And he laughed and he said, oh, Lanny, that's so great. Thank you so much. And what a fantastic guy. Fastest man in the world. And wow, what genetics he had.
No kidding. Now, you were talking about in the 80s using those foreign objects, and it came off a bit cartoony and such. Now those foreign objects are replaced with red suckers.
Yeah, lollipop. Yeah.
Truly, though, that moment of you going out to the ring with Jay Lethal and your brother's Pomp and Circumstance music playing in the background, many consider that to be their favorite moment of the night. What I have here is some audio clip of a fan's recording of you being introduced in the ring. You could just hear the excitement. Let's have a listen.
His opponent, Cabana, is accompanied by his brother, coming out of the mother, from Dallas, Illinois, the genius, Lanny Poffo. Wrestling out of Elizabeth, New Jersey, weighing 215 pounds, he is the Ring of Honor World Champion,
Jay Lethal, what a star. I mean, what I liked was how he was able to seamlessly transition from, black machismo character into Jay Lethal again, and then of course back into channeling the Macho Man. Really amazing stuff. And at the start of that match, when he kept pulling Brandy Rhodes over to his side of the ring, being protective, boy, that tugged at my heartstrings.
It was like the Elizabeth spots.
I know, it was amazing. It was amazing. And when he put her on his shoulders, man, that was great.
I'll tell you what, I don't think I could have lifted her. But
that's that old age speaking.
Well, the thing is, I don't like bending over for any reason anymore. You know what I mean? And having to pick up a girl, what if you can't and everything? I'd have to rehearse that a while.
Right.
And maybe wear one of those lifting belts.
Wear one under your shirt. How would you compare Jay Lethal to the stars of your generation?
He's better than the stars of my generation. Everybody's better. Everybody on that card was better. And I was about to jump in and interrupt you.
Sure.
About the best part, this and that. No, I think the best part of the evening, in my opinion, Chris Jericho, his emergence into the storyline.
Yeah.
I thought that was the best. And what was really great, I don't know where he was all day. As a matter of fact, I thought he was going to be there, and I was looking for him because, I was on his podcast, 3 years ago, and I enjoyed his podcast. He's great.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, because Talk is Jericho. What a fantastic guy. And the guy is multi-talented. I don't like rap music, but I do appreciate that he made it as, Fozzy. He tours
rock music, not rap.
What is it? I don't even listen to that.
It's like metal, rock music. It's like channeling the hair bands of the 80s, to be fair. It's quite good. You should check them out on YouTube. They got some great tunes.
I've got
Judas is one that comes to mind, one of their songs.
I've got Alexa here, but I changed her name. I've got one in my bedroom and I've got one in the living room. I've got the show. You know what I'm talking about? The Amazon show?
Yes, of course.
And I never ask for that music. I ask for play a little ABBA, okay, or play a little, I'm interested in Mario Lanza.
That's a bit boring.
Yeah, but the thing is, and then I had company over and I said, play some harp music that, trust me, that puts a little music in the air without hurting conversations.
What you need to do is say, play a bit of hair metal next time you have people over and try to keep the conversation sane.
Well, the people I invite over don't appreciate that type of music. So, anyway, I didn't see Chris Jericho in the back because he was, I guess, kayfabing with the boys,
Yeah.
But I didn't think he was there, and then all of a sudden he's there and he steals the show again. Every show he's on, he does that. Of course, that's a hard show to steal because it's like the match before was also great, and they got a lot of talent.
And the thing about Jericho, he's reinvented himself so many times over the years, and each time impresses me more. Incredible. What a talent.
You're right. I mean, that guy's got it. And my brother loved him, by the way. He was a Jericho-holic. And he just appreciated a guy that may not be the biggest guy, but didn't let it stop him. And, because when the bell rings, size becomes immaterial. Okay? And not that I'm against big guys. I believe in variety. When you go to the circus, or when we used to go to the circus, you wanted to see the daring young man and the flying trapeze, but you also wanted to see the three-headed geek or, somebody.
The bearded lady.
Yeah, something. It all contributed to your evening. And the worst thing that happened to me on the trip turned out to be the best. My flight was delayed and delayed and delayed going home, but there were a lot of fans at the airport, and I had a chance to actually talk to them. And don't worry, I told them, hey, on Monday my podcast is coming in. They said, okay, we'll watch it. You know what I mean? So
grassroots.
Yeah, start the ball rolling.
Right.
But it was fun to listen to the fans' take on the evening, and how happy they were. And to a person, everybody admitted it lived up to the hype. And, the fans have seen everything. They're jaded. They're bored. They got $9.99. They can see anything they want. And yet they all flew in from all over the world. And everybody was... I said, was it worth the money, the tickets, the hotel? And yes, everything was worth it. And one of the reasons is because Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Marty Scurll, all those people, they're nice to the fans. They know that's the most important thing. And if you're not nice to the fans, why should they even show up and support you? But I have nothing to teach them about that, because I saw them in action. They treat people well. They're nice in the locker room, and they're, this is the ring of honor. And it's like everybody's got the same mindset. We're not going to bite the hand that feeds us. When a fan flies in all the way from somewhere, spends their money, and if you don't treat them nicely, woe to you. And you don't deserve, anything that, you deserve an empty arena and starvation if you don't treat the fans nicely.
Everything from, Starrcast all the way up to the big show was amazing for the fans. Now, I'm from Chicago. I was very sad to be away from this whole thing because it was literally in the town over from where I was brought up. I'm from Palatine. This was in Hoffman Estates in Schaumburg. These are bordering towns. Very sad. But just keeping up on social media and reading online, and we have to big up Conrad Thompson. He's the one who put together Starrcast. He's become the top of the podcast mountain. He's a lovely guy. He's great at what he's doing, and he's making everyone come together for the right cause. It is a great time to be a fan of pro wrestling. You do not have to watch WWE to be excited, to get the best. Bravo to everyone involved.
Well, Conrad came up to me and said, Lanny, thank you for being here. And I said, oh my God, I'm so proud to be here. I'm from Downers Grove, Illinois. And, this is my home, and I'm just happy to be here. And I said, where are you from? He says, Huntsville, Alabama. And I said, the Von Braun Civic Center. He says, there you go. And, we had that kinship because one of the great things about being a wrestler, I got to go all over the world, and it didn't cost me a penny. And, Huntsville, Alabama is the home of one of the all-time greatest, beautiful Bobby Eaton. What a fantastic guy he was. And I wrestled him when he was young, and he says, I could barely understand a word he said, but he said, what'd you think of my match, Mr. Poffo? I said, hey, my name is Lanny. I'm only, not much older than you. And I said, I think you're going to be fantastic. I said, you just don't get discouraged and keep doing this. You're going to be one of the all-time greats. And I knew it. I felt it. And guess what? He accomplished that. And he never did get good at interviews, but who needs to be a great interview when you got Jimmy Cornette?
Oh, yeah. Jim Cornette, he's the absolute best.
The best, yes.
But, the Midnight Express, they defined tag team greatness in the 1980s.
Oh, yeah.
But they never went to WWE. We don't count the new Midnight Express, but they were fantastic.
No, they didn't. They made it to the Hall of Fame, and you know what? They deserve every penny of whatever they get. And I know that Dennis Condrey, and they got replaced. And, I don't know the intricate backstage. But in 1983, when I was working for Bill Watts, my best matches were against the Midnight Express. And I think you'll find that in their day, everybody's best match was against them.
We have a lot of articles up on ProWrestlingStories.com about the Midnight Express. In fact, there's one article in particular written by my writer, Bobby Matthews, entitled Unstoppable, the Midnight Express Defined Tag Team Greatness. It's well worth the read if you don't know much about them. It goes through their whole backstory. In fact, this article's got the stamp of approval by Jim Cornette himself. So give it a look if you want to learn more about them.
Let me interrupt you before my ancient brain gets distracted. You know, the best thing I've ever done for my brother in my life, and consequentially to the wrestling fans, and I already told this story on the DVD, but let's get into it here because this is our show. Randy had every piece of the puzzle but one. Believe it or not, he couldn't do the interviews. He was having anxiety. He felt he was lost. He tried several ways. He was having a problem, and he came to me for help, and he never did that ever. That's why it meant something to me. He said, "Lanny, you're doing so well in the interviews. Can you help me?" I said, "You don't need any help. You're doing well." He says, No, I'm not doing well. I don't feel confident. I don't think I have a, he's actually asking me for help. And I said, man, he never did that. I mean, this is the only time he ever asked me for help, because I got it. He's the guy, very confident guy and very adaptable, and he could learn anything quickly. I was, I'm telling you, so I said, okay, let's steal a guy. Who do you like? And he says, what savage interview do you most admire? Savage type of interview. He says, Courtesy Ikea and Pampero Firpo. I said, remember in Hawaii? And remember, I told this story, but here's what I forgot to tell you. I've become friends with Mary, Pampero Firpo's daughter. She, contacted me through my website, geniuslannypoffo.com, about 4 or 5 years ago. And then when I did the Hall of Fame speech in San Jose, I arranged for Pampero Firpo, who's losing his cognitive ability, to come to the show. And with the entire, it's not the Firpo family. His name is Juan Kachmanian. He's an Armenian from Argentina. He speaks about 8 languages. And it was so great to reacquaint him with people like Bruno Sammartino, because when Pampero Firpo was in New York wrestling for WWF, Vince McMahon Sr., Bruno and him became very dear friends. And it made me feel important that I was able to bring Firpo in to see all the guys, and they were so nice to him. And Mary is the biggest fan of Jim Cornette. So I was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. There was Jim Cornette, and I said, Pampero Firpo's daughter, believe it or not, you think she's going to be a hairy tattoo, you know what I mean, a circus freak. She is gorgeous. She is beautiful, and she's a school teacher. She's got a master's degree, and the phenomenal. And she's married to a top policeman in San Jose, real nice guy, and just 2 excellent children, and living. So Jim Cornette, he's a terrific guy. I said, please, we'll do a little FaceTime with her. He says, after it was over, he says, she's beautiful. I said, I know, you didn't expect Pampero Firpo's daughter to be so beautiful, did you? I said, it must have taken after the mother. So, but she's not only, and she's listening too. So I'm just telling you, here I am speaking to you confidentially. But she is Jim Cornette's biggest fan. I said, no, you're not. I'm his biggest fan.
We're big fans too. Now, going back to Firpo, you used inspiration off of him for Randy. His iconic, oh yeah, came from him.
Yeah, and Randy said, do you think we have to call him up and ask for permission to do that? And I said, no. I said, I'm pretty sure the Beatles did it before, and then before that, I think Louis Armstrong did it. It's not, but Louis Armstrong goes, oh yeah, and the Beatles did it their way. And, Pampero from, and Macho Man, ooh, yeah. So, I don't think you need to ask permission to say, oh, yeah. I think you got to carve out your own, individuality. That's the key. I never claimed to be a great worker or whatever this, you know what I mean? I don't think my name comes up when they mention great workers, but I tried to have my own individuality, whether it was a babyface or a heel. I created a character of the genius, and Leaping Lanny was always Mr. Optimistic, and no matter what the odds were, I was a suffering hero, and I would try to, that's how you get the fans behind you. That was my psychology of Leaping Lanny. It was vague, but the genius was kind of in your face.
Well, they say imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, and your brother took what was out there, what inspired him, and made it his, made it better.
Right, and I'll tell you what, Randy loved Jay Lethal. He enjoyed the act, and actually a mutual friend of ours, the late Ed Schumann, got a three-way call with Randy and Ed Schumann and Jay Lethal, and Randy gave him his blessings. Yeah, just remember, the only sure thing in this wrestling business is that there's no sure things. So work hard, save your money, and good luck with that gimmick, and I'll be watching. But Randy loved watching Jay Lethal perform, and that's the reason I love being Jay Lethal's manager. I mean, I don't know how far it's going to go. I don't, it's eventually going to run out and they're going to quit calling. Who knows? It doesn't matter. I got to be at All In, and if they never call me again, I'm still happy.
And what a moment you had. You read online, I was reading some of the fans' comments and such, saying, oh, that's copyright infringement. Jay shouldn't be taking Randy's shtick. But many of them don't realize that Randy gave his blessings to him to use the Macho Man character.
That's right. And I'll tell you where I got the jacket, by the way. No, Jay doesn't own the jacket. It's Dr. Marty Urban, who is an implantologist, which is a dentist of gum diseases and, putting titanium into your mouth for possible, new teeth. Sure. And he's a very dear friend of mine. About 3 Christmases ago, I performed at a all-dental party of 150 people, dentists and their wives and, their mistresses or whatever. And, I did a little, just a little poetry, a little fun, little humor and jokes. And we became friends. And in his home, he's got World War I memorabilia. He's got Olympic gold medals. And he also has about 8 costumes with the Macho Man. So, I mean, this guy is serious.
He owns 8 costumes that used to belong to your brother.
Yes. And he, bought and paid for. So that jacket that Jay Lethal wore was on loan from Dr. Marty Urban. So we took good care of it. And, I'm going to bring it back to him. So, it's, in fact, he wants to buy the pants that Jay Lethal wore with the hat that he wore. Because that was all that was Jay Lethal's, that was his garb. And, they did a FaceTime with him, you know what I mean? And so I think it's great that I know a guy that's got all his costumes. I mean, not all of them, but I thought it added to the show.
It did. It was sentimental. I mean, how did it feel watching Jay wear your brother's ring gear in honor of your brother?
I don't think anybody could have worn it better besides the Macho Man himself, And, that anything that keeps his memory alive. Look, haters gonna hate. They say, oh, we don't like that, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Did you hear the people pop? Randy would have loved it. Randy, all he wanted to do was pop the audience. That's all he wanted to do. And sometimes he did it ad lib and sometimes he did it painstakingly. But as long as he popped the audience, he was a happy man.
And you had that vignette in the back where your hand, and a lot of fans were like, oh, I think that's Lanny's white pasty arm. It certainly looks like it. And it was. You slapped him on the back and he just morphed into it. And then after Flip's entrance, Jay came out with pomp and circumstance with you behind him with frisbees in tow. Incredible. you could just hear the roar of the crowd.
It was one last run, or who knows, might be the first of many. Who knows?
I hope so. Now, those frisbees, you had a chance to throw a couple in. Now, you were telling me a story earlier in the week about how, you went to Walmart, you bought those 6 frisbees, you're bringing them to Allin. You don't even know if you're going to use them. You sure as hell did.
Well, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, because if I'm going to be a babyface or a good guy, frisbees was my gimmick. And as a heel, I didn't throw frisbees. But, the thing is, I stole the idea from Al Costello and Roy Heffernan, the fabulous Kangaroos. Their manager was Wild Red Berry. You can go on YouTube and see their matches from the 1960s. Mm-hmm. They both had boomerangs carved by Aborigines. You couldn't throw that to the audience; you'll kill somebody. Yeah. But they had cardboard. I don't know what it was made of: pressed paper, cardboard, stock paper. I don't know what it was, but they had like heavy paper boomerangs with the pictures of Roy Heffernan, Al Costello, information about them, in small font. And they would throw those to the audience. And the reason I remember is because my brother and I were boys, and we used to run and scamper for those boomerangs. And I knew, as a fan, how exciting it was to have somebody throw something from the ring. So when I became Leaping Lanny, the poet laureate of wrestling, I made all these poems, and I rolled them into scrolls, and I threw that from the ring. Well, I couldn't get it over the guardrail. So I'm saying, well, this is a big flop. And I said, maybe what else could I do? And I said, well, what's going to fly? And I said, I can't do boomerangs because I'm not Australian. And then all of a sudden, it hit me. Frisbees, yeah. And I went to the printing place and had poetry put on the frisbee. I'll tell you what the poem was. The World Wrestling Federation has caused a culture shock in every phase of our society, from classical to rock. In triumphant jubilation, every social class is won with a single common interest, just to have a little fun. I've seen the rapture in the eyes of fans from every nation. You made us what we are today, World Wrestling Federation. And I just want to say, I've written a lot of poems, but I felt that was like one of my best ones, because it took the essence of why is it so great to be a wrestling fan? Just to have a little fun. That's all they want. So if famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan wasn't having so much fun out there, how come the people almost, I hate to use the pun, but they almost popped the roof off the place. You know what I mean? It was like, it was orgasmic when he came out there. Those fans enjoyed it. And then you got all these internet trolls saying, oh, that was wrong and everything. Yeah, you know what? Lighten up. Enjoy yourself.
That's right. I'm going to go into a question. I actually had this sent in to us earlier in the week, but it comes along with your Frisbees story. H1Z1_Swizzle on Reddit said, I don't remember the exact date, but it was in the 80s when he saw you in Boston as Leaping Lanny Poffo. You were throwing those Frisbees into the crowd when he unintentionally caught a Frisbee to the face. I think he says, I think you saw it happen because you had a grimace on your face, like, ooh, that had to hurt. And he wishes he had that Frisbee. He doesn't anymore. Do you have any memories of taking out members of the audience with your Frisbees?
Oh, you're going to get people ideas to litigate. But there was one time in Long Island, Nassau Coliseum, Uniondale, Long Island. By the way, I've been there like 5 times in the last 3 months. I was there the day I met you.
That's right.
Because Evan Ginsberg lives in Queens, and we hung out. We had a great time, and who'd have thought it would culminate to this, huh?
That's right. Life works in strange ways.
But anyway, many years ago in Uniondale, Long Island, I threw Frisbees to the audience, and a big guy reached for a Frisbee and knocked over a little guy. And I felt terrible, that the Frisbee didn't do the damage, but it was the reaching for the Frisbee by a big bully against a weaker person. It was a little rough, but Oh, I hate thinking about it. I'm just trying to make the fans happy, that's all. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. And a frisbee to the mouth is not the worst thing in the world.
If any of our listeners actually have a frisbee that they got from the audience from Lanny, send it in to us at thegeniuscast at prowrestlingstories.com, or you can send it to our social media accounts at thegeniuscast or at Lanny Poffo. It would be fun to see a picture and share it on our social media accounts so that they could see the frisbee and the poem attached if it's still there.
Oh, yeah, well, these poems were embossed on the frisbee. I would write something on the other side, and signed a lot of them. They sold them for $3 a piece at the venues, and I would always go there and sign them. And I used to get a nickel a frisbee, and I've got so many nickels now you wouldn't believe it.
Because you are quite frugal, as we learned in the first episode.
No, just sensible.
Sensible. That's a better way to put it.
Yes. I'll tell you what. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness. Listen, I'm not here to give a lecture. Just go on YouTube and get The Richest Man in Babylon. And you don't have to buy a book. You just listen to some great actor read that book to you. It's all the wisdom in the world is in that book. So I don't have to go on. It's lecture time. No, the purpose of this podcast is just like the World Wrestling Federation used to be, and Ring of Honor and WWE, just to have a little fun. What's wrong with that?
That's right. Now, you were actually on Reddit a couple times in the last couple months. You did an Ask Me Anything session 2 months ago in promotion for 350 days. And then recently you've been popping in and out, taking questions from the readers over there. And somebody suggested that we label the subject Lanny's Lecture Hall. I think that's a bit funny. But as you were the genius, it's okay for you to do a bit of lecturing from time to time.
Yes, I'm going to get in my soapbox and pontificate.
Good word.
So, the big deal about me was I'm not really a genius. The only thing real about my gimmick is, as Leaping Lanny and the Genius, I wrote my own poetry and recited my own poetry. That's all, that was the only, which makes me the only real gimmick besides Andre being a real giant, and according to Roddy Piper, Jake Roberts being really a snake. So I was like, I just, the difference between me and the regular people is everybody was into pleasure, power, and possession. I was into health, wealth, and freedom. That was the difference.
Do you have any final thoughts about Allin Weekend?
Yes, I am very grateful to Jay Lethal, and Jay Lethal, because it was his idea that I would add to the Black Machismo and the Macho Madness, and I think he's right. I'm the only living member of the Poffo clan, and I think it's excellent that we, especially since Randy was from Downers Grove and so was I, you know what I'm saying, Downers Grove, Illinois. He billed himself from Sarasota, but, Downers Grove North High School, just go walk into there and you'll see that Randy was All-State 2 years in a row in baseball. So, Randy Mario Poffo. So, I thank Jay Lethal for suggesting that I would add to the show, and I thank everybody else at Ring of Honor for not kiboshing the idea. Like say, no, we can't have Lanny, nobody likes him. You know what I mean? Everybody, and what really, I got emotional because Matt and Nick of the Young Bucks, not together but separately, said, Lanny, thanks for being here. And I said, hey, thank you. I'm not coming from Madison Square Garden. I'm coming from the couch. I said, this makes me feel so young to be around young people that are trying to put on a greatest show on earth. And, they've got a lot to, it's an uphill climb because the fans have seen a lot of great shows. And what I was so proud of, they lived up to the hype, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
It was people like you, your brother, and wrestlers from your era that paved the way for wrestlers like the Young Bucks and Cody and so on. So it's great to see them giving back that respect. It's mutual.
I made a little list of people to thank. Do you mind if I go through it?
Not a problem. This is your show. This is your venue. Take it away.
Okay, Mark Brown. Who is Mark Brown? Well, he was destiny for me. I sat next to him on Southwest Airlines to New Orleans on my way to WrestleCon, which was a part of WrestleMania in New Orleans. And he invited me to Lakeland. He gave me the email address of Hunter Johnston. And he is the man behind the scenes of Ring of Honor. And then when I got there, Frankie Kazarian, 1987 LA Sports Arena, I was the first wrestler he ever met. He was just a bashful boy, and he gives me credit for giving such a... I guess I encouraged him, and he became such a big star, and I feel really good about that. And then when I got to Lakeland and the Ring of Honor, I met Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks, and they invited me to be on their premiere edition of Being the Elite, Show 101. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't already. And I got the chance to work with Hangman Page, and Jay Lethal resurrected my career, and Ryan from Pro Wrestling Tees for making the Brother from Another Mother t-shirt such a big success. Evan Ginsberg. Genius Cast would never have happened if he hadn't introduced us. And Shalonda Royale, she sang the national anthem at Allin, and she could soften the hardest of hearts. And boy, do we ever need that now. Alicia Atut, AMBY interviews for, she was so nice to me and she gave me such a great interview. Chico El Luchador for including me on his hilarious YouTube. It hasn't played yet, but when it does, we're going to warn you. Michael Craven from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Some big excitement is going to be happening out of that duo. And Dr. Marty Urban for letting me borrow the Macho Man's jacket and giving it to Jay Lethal to borrow. And he made such a great intro. And last but not least, my brother, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Lanny Poffo. If anybody remembers my name, it'll be because of his.
Hi Lanny, this is David from Cardiff, Wales. I was really excited when you announced your podcast on Reddit, so I thought I'd write you a poem in the style of your infamous promo leading into your match against Hulk Hogan on Saturday night's main event. Here it goes. Pay attention, listen quick. The genius has a podcast that is sure to stick. Listen to his stories through time, and I'm sure he will talk about his brother's prime. We're all excited, we just can't wait. I hope the Genius podcast will not be late. Thanks, Lanny. Really enjoyed your first episode, and I look forward to more. Your friend from Cardiff, Wales, David.
You know, I got to hang out with Rey Mysterio Jr. and I'll tell you, one of my brother's favorite people in the world was the guy that does DDP yoga.
Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, because Randy loved that feud he had with him.
A classic.
And he's such a positive guy. And we talked for about an hour with Rey Mysterio Jr. And, you know, when you get there at 11, there's a lot of downtime. And, you know, if you don't have fun with some of the boys, and you never know when you're going to see each other again because it seems like 3 wrestlers die a month. But
yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Right. It's terrible, you know, and you know what I never figured out? You know, I take care of myself. I'm a diet guy and health foods, and I read, and, you know. And here, Nikolai Volkov, who is just as fanatical about health as I am, you know, he passes away last month. And the Iron Sheik, who's been trying to commit suicide for 40 years, he's still alive. And I just don't get it. But yeah. I'll tell you what I heard. You know, Nikolai had a heart attack, and he's in, I think, Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, and they want to give him 2 stents. And he refused, and he left the hospital, went home, and died. So, now I'm not trying to be gossipy, but whoever's listening to this podcast, and I guess it's, you know, a lot of people, if the doctor tells you need 2 stents, please get them. Stupid. You know, I'm telling you, your life is on the line, and they just don't put stents in for their health. They do it for your health. So, if you've had a heart attack, take advantage of the fact that we're in the 21st century, please.
Don't be stubborn. And that makes me think of your brother. One thing that I took from that DVD on the Macho Man was Hogan talking about how he went to the doctor about a month after your brother passed away, and he and Hulk and your brother shared the same doctor, and the doctor told Hulk Hogan that he had recommended to Randy to get a test done, and if your brother had done that test, he'd still be with us today. That hits hard.
The one error there is my brother took my mother to the doctors, and that's where the nurse says, "Well, Hulk Hogan is here." "Oh, Hulk Hogan is here. Bring me over to that guy." And he went over there, and all was forgiven. The Be a Man Hulk and all that crap, which I hated. Yeah. Because, like I say, how would you like to be in my shoes? I love them both. My brother did everything for me. Even now, I'm on his coattails because what was the purpose of having me except that I'm the brother of another mother with Jay Lethal? That's the gimmick. And Hulk Hogan, what has he done for me? I think he took a jabroni and made me like a piece of gum on his shoe for 4 months. He couldn't shake me for 4 months. And I got to go to wrestle on main events for 4 months. And like I said in the last podcast, 2 main events in Madison Square Garden. That's not as many as Bruno Sammartino, but it was worth it to me. Maybe you understand, I feel grateful. So I'm not, just because Hulk hasn't done anything for me lately, isn't 1989 and 1990 good enough? I didn't earn it. I was selected, okay? Nobody earns anything in wrestling. We're selected. And I'll tell you what, Randy asked me to write a couple of songs for the Be a Man Hulk, and I said, I can't. I won't. He said, why not? I said, he lost to me in NBC. How about that? And then I was involved in a storyline for 4 months after having been sucking hind tit on the sow, as they say in the farm, for all that time. I'm grateful. I can't do it. Okay, can you do something for Mr. Perfect? Yes, and I wrote A Perfect Friend. It's on that Be a Man Hulk.
Great song.
Thank you. And I'll tell you what, I did it with love. And I don't want to say bad things about Hulk Hogan. My God, that's like biting the hand that feeds me or fed me. Even now, I get a lot of requests to come in because of my match with Hulk Hogan. That's what put me on the map. But can I tell you, JP? I'm going to tell you something. You know what probably got me hot enough for Hulk to want to do it? It's I owe it all to Brother Love.
Bruce Pritchard.
Yes. 5 days before the fact, he sees me and he says, can you write a poem about this and that? You're going to present me with an honorary PhD. And I'll tell you what, that made me. Bruce Pritchard made me. I could feel the difference, that I had the legitimacy of being on his show. Why don't you, you're always looking for clips. Why don't you play that thing?
One of my favorites. There is a sincere man.
At this time, I would like to introduce to you a man whose mental ability, supersede any one of you.
Sit down, Jesse.
A man who has appropriately been called by name that best describes his intellectual prowess. I give to you now the one, the only brother genius, Lanny Poffo. Yes.
Oh boy, this should be great.
Oh my.
Why, he's too smart for you?
Welcome.
You don't understand me?
Welcome, Brother
Look at
Genius.
this guy.
You know, Brother Genius, there are a lot of dummies here in the WWF.
Talking about you,
and I
Vince.
just want you to know what a pleasure it is to be standing up here with a true genius. Tell Brother Love, what words do you have to impart to us today?
I've told you I'm the genius and the world's smartest man, and no one is superior to me. But I appear before you not to glorify myself, but to present an honorary PhD. Congratulations, Brother Love, my endomorphic friend, with the rosiest complexion ever seen. Your glasses can't begin to hide that twinkle in your eyes, or your loving mannerisms so pristine. Your little nose is aquiline, not bulbous or baroque, with dashing dimples on a double chin. But loveliest of all is when you spread your pouting lips and it reveals your smiling 32 within. This man is love personified as anyone can see. He's standing here as peaceful as a dove. By the power of the genius and the world's smartest man, I proclaim you here and now, Doctor of Love.
What? Doctor of Love, I think you said.
Simply overwhelmed, brother.
Look at this. What's this robe he's going to put on Brother Love? A Doctor of Love degree. Give me a break.
Bruce Pritchard, what a fantastic guy, and he, you know, a lot of the sometimes they say, okay, write a poem about this, and then I had 10 minutes to write a poem. You know, this one I had 5 days, thanks to Bruce Pritchard. You know, it takes a little time, and if you want to put a little more time into it, you know, it's nice to have a little more time. I said some things about Pat Patterson and about Jerry Lawler on the last show.
That's right.
But didn't I always say what I admired about both guys? See what I mean? And the only thing my only point was that they shouldn't have used that DVD for Randy as a critical thing about how he ran his marriage or whatever. You see what I mean? Or in other words, don't speak ill of the dead, but really don't speak ill of the dead on their DVD. It should have been only praise. And I got a little negativity, but when I knock guys, I always give the devil his dues. I never said Jerry Lawler wasn't a fantastic talent in the business, and I gave him thanks for everything he did for the Poffo family. And I also said that Pat Patterson wasn't a great worker. He was the greatest of them all in 1967. I don't know how long that happened, but that was the year I saw him.
It's unfortunate that the narrative, when we do talk about your brother, it always does include his relationship with Miss Elizabeth, and a bit of negativity comes through those conversations. It's part of his story. You're here to clear up the rumors and let us know what it was really like.
By the way, you had a clip of my father,
right?
You know, talking about being the miser and everything. That was a gimmick. He was trying to get heat. That wasn't Angelo Poffo. That was the character that he was portraying. So he, you know, the thing is, he could laugh at himself, but I don't want people laughing at him now.
Freak out!
It's the Macho Man Clip of the Week.
Oh, yeah!
Am I going to be interrupting him?
Well, you might be.
Look at this. Does he do this all the time, continually working out?
Well, that's right. Continuous workout for him.
All right, Elizabeth. Very, very impressive. As is this man, the Intercontinental Champion of the World, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Mr. TV announcer, how you doing?
Good to see you again, sir.
Good to see me, yeah. Do you really believe that? I mean, everything's hit between us, no problems, right, Elizabeth? No problems, right? Came in nice and easy. Yeah, that's
beautiful,
good.
Beautiful.
Very good, Miss. Yeah, that's fine.
It's beautiful. The home is beautiful. The entire layout is just gorgeous.
Talk to me, Gene Okerlund. Would you like to talk to me?
Let's talk wrestling.
Wrestling, yes. I am very great at wrestling, aren't I? Yeah. Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, right, Elizabeth?
That's right.
Okay, is that satisfying my, goals? No, it is not. No. I got it all, Gene Okerlund. I got it all here.
Well, I can see you've got quite a bit, substantial wealth, of course, that you've acquired as being the Intercontinental Champion of the world, regardless of how you got that title belt on February the 8th, 1986.
First thing of the day. No problem there, but guess what? I was rich a long time ago before I even had an Intercontinental title match. That's right. No problem there at all with money. 3 strives of man are pleasure, power, and possession. And pleasure, do I have pleasure, Elizabeth? Yeah,
yes,
all
you do.
kinds of pleasure.
Yes.
See that? All kinds of pleasure, you know. And possessions, I've got possessions. Now, power. Power. I believe that there's only one thing left for me to do on this planet right here.
And that is?
Yep, and that is...
That
I bet you can guess what that is. Tell me, you tell me. Will you tell me what that is?
The heavyweight championship of the world.
That's right. Hulk Hogan, yeah.
You want it all, don't you?
Oh, I want it all, man. I want it all. I am the greatest wrestler that ever lived, past, present, and future. No problem there. There's an airplane going by, and I'm not on it. You know why I'm not on it? No title defense right there. No, I'm ready right here.
You know, I'm very curious, Macho Man Randy. Excuse me.
All right, no problem. What'd you do?
You've built a fortress here of sorts for yourself. Obviously, you don't like the public around.
No, I just kind of stay by myself type of a thing. You know, like some people say paranoid, but I just say that I like to hang around the right kind of people. And who could be better to hang around than myself? Isn't that right, Elizabeth?
That's right.
The Macho Man Randy Savage with himself. Isn't that fantastic?
Excuse me, Randy, would you be terribly, at the risk of sounding negative, do you mind if I conduct the interview?
No problem, man. If you want to be negative, that's okay with me, you know, because I'm on top of the world with one more door to knock on, and I will knock on that door.
I'm very curious, Macho Man Randy Savage, does the pressure of being the Intercontinental Champion get to you?
The pressure, man. I don't really feel the pressure about being the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, but the pressure of not being the World Heavyweight Champion is really stymied. Yes.
Macho Man, Gene, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is a real important phone call, Macho Man. It's urgent.
It's urgent. What's urgent?
It's a national women's publication. They want to offer you $500,000 to pose for a centerfold. That's more than they offered Burt Reynolds.
$500,000?
Yeah.
Is that more than they offered Burt Reynolds?
That's more than they offered Burt Reynolds. She just said that. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did you hear it? Well, listen, let me tell you something right now. Hang up the phone. Yeah, macho madness is more seductive than sex. I know that, yeah, but I haven't sung my song yet. No, you gotta wait a while. Yeah, a long time from now. They don't deserve it.
How can you turn down $500,000?
I just did it. Did you hear me? Yeah, I got the money. I've got the pleasures. And now I want the power. Oh, cool. Did you hear that? Yeah, it's on his door right there. Yeah.
What now?
Randy, I'm sorry. It's another important phone call. It's a
What's urgent now? Tell me.
It's a promoter from Japan. He wants to offer you $400,000 just to come and wrestle 3 men.
We're talking about the aggregate on this is nearly $1 million.
Unbelievable. Tell him right now, no go. Yeah, tell him that the money is nothing but on my day off, he can bring those 3 guys down, and I'll beat them right here for nothing. Now hang up the phone.
I'm sorry.
Hang it up.
Can't believe
You're
you,
not
Randy
sorry,
Savage.
no.
You know, I was amazed this morning when I arrived here at your home, Macho Man Randy Savage. Yes, I can tell you are. I found a young couple honeymooning, as a matter of fact, and the young lady insisted she see you before they continue on the honeymoon.
It's a typical type situation. Women can't help themselves. They just do.
What is this?
Oh, man, there's a typical situation. Get her out of here, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. No, I know how you feel. Dreams. In your dreams. Gene Okerlund,
You have got to be kidding.
I've got
What can I do?
Unbelievable.
Thank you to Alex Burpee for sending that in. He wrote, "That's the Macho Man clip that I have to hear the most about. When the phone's ringing, when Gene Okerlund's speaking, and Macho says, Macho madness is more seductive than sex. Yes, I know that." That's stuck with Alex for decades now. Amazing. What are your thoughts from that clip?
Well, the greatest interview of them all was the Macho Man, and but Gene Okerlund might have been the greatest announcer of them all. The one thing I'll clear up, he did not have 17 acres ever in his life. When he died, he lived in a beautiful home, but it was 1.5 acres. Nobody needs 17 acres unless you're a farmer.
Yeah, a bit of playing with numbers as the show business does.
Little exaggeration,
Yeah.
you know, doesn't hurt.
Men,
no stories.
men do that too.
No story is so great it can't be embellished a little.
That's right. Now, if you want to actually see that clip on YouTube, it's worth checking out. It's you just search "At the Home of Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth." Was that actually Randy and Elizabeth's house?
No, might have been Vince McMahon's. Who knows?
If maybe somebody who's in the know can write in and tell us whose house that was. Now, we're going to go to the fan questions of the week before we close the show. Fernando Aviles emailed in, "Man, this podcast delivers, and I hope you guys keep them coming. My question for Mr. Lanny Poffo is about the Macho Man's WrestleMania 5 promo. My God, that is one of, if not the greatest promos I've ever seen in my 30 years of being a pro wrestling fan. My question is, how pissed off was Randy when they turned him heel and fed him to Hogan? And did Randy ever get a clean pinfall win over Hulk?"
Okay, Randy was never pissed off and about that. He was about other things. Not getting my father into the Battle Royal, that was pissed off.
Yeah.
The storyline of Hogan did not bother him whatsoever. And he was very happy to turn heel. He thought he was a better heel than babyface. He felt that. But he also thought that if you couldn't do both, you couldn't do either. So he didn't mind switching his character. And besides, in his personality, whether you hated him or loved him, everybody respected him. So think about that for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Big Evil 21 on Reddit wrote, and this is a poem, I thought this was great. "Introduced to us as the genius, and he has a brand new podcast. He posted about it on Reddit, and the downloads came quite fast. He's ready to set the record straight about his own history, but we hope he soon has the guests, the Brothers Beverly." What are your thoughts on the Beverly Brothers?
Well, I was just glad, I had been given my future endeavor speech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Good luck on your future endeavors. And then 6 months later, John told us either he was the coach with the whistle, and he either quits or was fired. So somebody's bright idea was to bring the genius back with the Beverly Brothers, and I was so glad to be back in the action that I didn't care about anything. So here's my only negative thing about the Beverly Brothers. They were a very talented, very charismatic group of guys, nice people. I haven't kept up with them, but every once in a while I see them, and they're always nice, and I hope they're doing well with themselves. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the fact that they used a move called the Shaker Heights Spike, and they would put one guy up in a back body drop, the other guy would grab the guy by the hair and throw him to the mat, pile driver style. And a lot of the jobbers, they were enhancement talent, whatever you call, I call them the people who make you look good. I think jobber and enhancement is, a little bit of a slur.
Right.
They were afraid to take the move, and they took it anyway, and they hurt a few people. And the word got out that the Shaker Heights Spike is no fun to take. Well, my point is, if you're going to do that to the enhancement talent, how come you never did it to Fred Ottman, John Tenta? How come you never did it to the Powers of Pain, the Legion of Doom, all those guys? No, you did it to the enhancement talent. And you didn't care if you broke their necks. Well, that pisses me off. You do not take a guy in midair and throw their head down on the mat just hoping everything's going to go okay. But they already hurt a few people, and they didn't mind doing it, and they didn't mind hurting more people. And I thought to myself, well, every time somebody says, how'd you like managing those guys? Oh, it was better than having to work with them on television. And I never had to take the Shaker Heights Spike, but you guess what? I wouldn't have taken that move. That's not a move. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Because if you hit your head just right on the mat, you're going to break your neck. And then you're going to say you're sorry, and sorry doesn't cut it, does it? Not when you break your neck. So that's my point. I wrestled as Leaping Lanny when Mr. Perfect came in. I wrestled Mr. Perfect every night for at least 30 nights. We went all over the place. And let me tell you what. He always thanked me. He always made me look good. Then he did his finish, and it never hurt. It was always nice. And he and he took care of his opponent because he was a great, great worker. You understand the difference?
Absolutely.
Between a selfish worker and a great worker. When he gave me his finish, I made sure I stayed down until they helped me out of the ring. You know what I mean? In other words, I sold the move, and he was always appreciative. Mr. Perfect, he was the greatest, man. I'm telling you. And you know who thought so? Macho Man. Mm-hmm. They loved each other. It was a great, they respected one another. I'm sorry that Macho Man never got to wrestle Mr. Perfect. That would have torn the house down.
That would have been amazing. Now, going back to the Beverly Brothers almost killing a jobber, there's a video on YouTube. Search it. It says, "Holy shit," with like 10 exclamation marks. Beverly Brothers nearly killed jobber. Check that video out. Reckless.
I tell you, at Allin, I saw a lot of moves didn't look safe, but I guess everybody was still walking, so maybe they're just great.
Braden asks, you mentioned in the first episode how Colt Cabana was one of the people who supports your brother and has nice things to say. Myself and many others, I'm sure, would be interested to hear your thoughts on CM Punk, considering all that's happened between him and Colt Cabana.
You know what? I love both those guys a lot. And what CM Punk did after my brother died, going on the top rope, dropping the elbow for the Macho Man. There is no way that I'm going to choose sides. I just hope everybody can get back together and be friends. I love CM Punk and I love Colt Cabana. They're fantastic people. We're all from Chicagoland. Let's be friends again, please.
For the sake of Chicago. In fact, we're all Chicago guys.
Yeah, Chicago has a reputation. No murders. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
wrong. Guy DeReidelman on Reddit asks, I read online that your mother was Jewish, but you and Randy were raised Roman Catholic. Did your family observe any Jewish traditions growing up or perhaps currently?
No, but I knew more about Judaism than my mother did. She was not what you call Orthodox Jewish. She was, her father was Lithuanian and her mother was Belarus. I call them Zadie and Bubby. And I call Nono and Nana the names of my Italian grandparents. So 18 months ago, I became a grandfather, and my daughter asked me, what do I want to be called? And I said, abuelo. It's Spanish for grandfather. But you're not Spanish. I said, yeah, but it's cool. I like the word abuelo. It rolls off the tongue.
You go by abuelo.
Yes. I want to be an abuelo.
That's great.
Yo estudio 2 años en la escuela de español, pero no es muy bueno gringo español.
Me as well. I took 2 years of Spanish. I understand what you say, but I certainly can't ask or respond.
I'm very good at malos palabras. You know what that is?
Go on.
Bad words.
Oh, yeah. Aren't we all? I could say bad words in about 8 languages, but we won't do that on this show.
I can get my face slapped in many countries.
Carl Hayes emailed in asking, I recall seeing you wrestle at the old Boston Garden back in the 80s. Always excellent matches that kept me hooked. What was it like on the road back when certain wrestlers weren't supposed to be seen in public together? And I know it's been decades and you've had tens of thousands of matches, but do you have any memories of Boston?
I like Boston a lot. I go there now. I've got friends there, and I'll tell you what, I like those mass holes. And I've been to Fenway Park several times. I've been to Gillette Stadium to watch those horrible Patriots. We're gonna lose people now, because everybody hates the winner. You know what I mean?
They are an American football team for our international fans.
Yes. So anyway, love all those mass holes.
Yeah, they're wicked cool, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, part of the question was, what was it like on the road when certain wrestlers weren't supposed to be seen in public together, when kayfabe was supposed to be kept?
Well, I guess St. Louis had a rule that if you were seen with somebody, that would be the end of it, Mm-hmm. And the Maritimes, Rudy K, Bobby K, Leo Burke, and all those guys, and Emile Dupre, there was a strict kayfabe there. But the worst story I ever heard was in Florida. Eddie Graham was big on kayfabe. And then Red Bastien and Johnny Valentine were spotted on the beach together. And I'm thinking to myself, and they were fired immediately. And I'm thinking, okay, how many people saw him at the beach? Like 3? But when Johnny Valentine was in the ring, he was Mr. Kayfabe. He used to have an expression, I can't make you believe wrestling is real, but I can make you believe that I am real. And if you ever saw Johnny Valentine wrestle, that's Greg's father, everything about him was believable. So if it was me and I said Red Bastien and Johnny Valentine were caught on the beach breaking kayfabe, I would say, let's team them up. We'll turn either one heel or the other babyface if they want to hang out together. But let's keep both of them because they're so talented. And let's not fire either one of them. But that was to set an example for the boys. But Johnny Valentine, if there was any doubt about the legitimacy of professional wrestling, Johnny Valentine would be your definition of it's real.
Now, you go on to ProWrestlingStories.com. We got a really great article on there called Kayfabe in Professional Wrestling. You know wrestling's fake, right? There's a ton of great stories there. Some of them talking about how wrestlers would go to a gas station to fill up gas for their car or petrol in their car. They would see a heel and they were a babyface and they would have to leave. Or it'd be like walking into a restaurant. They see somebody from the roster that's either face or heel and they'd have to leave. So did you ever experience kayfabe like that while on the road?
Yes, and I never cared for it at all. But I never used that word, the F word, that F-A-K-E word. I don't use that word. We are not fake. We are entertainment. You know, when you go to the movies, you say, well, you know, it's all fake, right? Well, yeah, but you still cry when Bambi's mother gets shot, and that's watercolors. It's about suspended disbelief. If you're going to enjoy yourself at the wrestling matches, what you've got to do is just realize you paid X amount of money to get in, and if you come out with a better show than that, if it was worth it to you, it was worth it. The most expensive ticket I ever bought was in Las Vegas, and I watched Cirque du Soleil honoring Michael Jackson. And in the first 2 minutes, I realized that even though it was a hell of a price I paid at the box office, I realized that I got 10 times the entertainment value for my money. And that's what Ring of Honor did at All In. They gave the people more. I didn't see one fan, not one, and I met them all at the airport. I saw they thought it was the greatest show they ever saw, and by God, there's been some great shows before this.
And with that, we leave you with the genius poem of the week.
I'm going to do a little poem for Nikolai Volkov, who we lost. I was very upset about that. What a nice man he was. And I remember Corporal Kirshner and I were against the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, and I did this poem. I had shortly become the Poet Laureate of the World Wrestling Federation. And I said, if Volkov comes from Russia and the Sheik comes from Iran, I have a question on the minds of every single fan. Every time your mouth is open, you must put our country down. If you hate us all so much, then tell us why you're still around. There's so many boats and planes that leave our country every day, and I gladly buy 2 tickets, just as long as they're one way, because a lot of people fought and died to keep our country free, and I'm sick of seeing both your ugly faces on TV. With Freddie Blassie at your side, just step into the ring and salute your native homeland as the Russian starts to sing. And when the bell is sounded and the match is underway, some American inferior might kick your big red A, and the people go, ah. So I love Nikolai Volkov so much. What a great guy. He wasn't really Russian. He escaped Yugoslavia with the Russian domination, and he spoke about 8 languages, and he had that old country look and style. So the Iron Sheik was really from Tehran, Iran, and although the Iron Sheik wasn't really a Russian, nobody could say he didn't look like a Russian or play like a Russian, and sing that Russian national anthem was magnificent.
so don't forget to subscribe. I'm JP Zarka, and you can find me on Twitter at JP Zarka, that's Z like zebra, ARKA. That's it for now. So long and goodbye. You have been listening to The Genius Cast with Lanny Poffo. This has been a ProWrestlingStories.com production. Find us on social media at The Genius Cast, at Lanny Poffo, or at JP Zarka. If you'd like to advertise to thousands of dedicated listeners on our show each week, send us an email at thegeniuscast@ProWrestlingStories.com.
Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to the second edition of the Genius Cast. My name is JP Zarka.
And I'm Lanny Poffo.
Until next time.
Oh, yeah!